Like, what does leadership first off mean to you?
When I think of leadership, I think of self-leadership. You have to lead yourself first, and you have to remember that people are looking to you for guidance, and that is a gift, quite frankly. A phrase that I say a lot, especially at keynote talks and occasionally on my show, is I say burnout is a choice. Burnout is a common phrase these days. A lot of people are experiencing it. The World Health Organization, issued an ICD code about burnout. So, it's definitely on the minds of a lot of people, including, huge global organizations, because it's a huge problem.
Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. Matt and I are super excited to be hosting Michael Levitt, who is a global thought leader. And welcome to another episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. I'm your co-host, Drew Norton, and we'll be joined with Matt today to interview our guest, Michael Levitt. He's a global thought leader on burnout and workplace culture. Sought after keynote speaker and executive coach, and a published author of several books. He also hosts a podcast called The Breakfast Leadership Show. And we're really excited to dive into the topics of leadership and burnout with Michael today.
Welcome to the Everyday Leader podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Leader podcast. Matt and I are excited to have Michael Levitt, the founder and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network. I love that title, Michael, first off. He's written a couple books. Excited to talk with him about leadership, especially knowing he has a podcast that includes leadership in its title. So it's a topic we love, obviously, and thanks, Michael, for your time being here with us this morning. We're excited to jump into things with you.
I'm really excited to be here. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, the first thing we love to ask our guests, and if you go around the world, there's probably a million different ways this word is used. It's diluted. Like, what does leadership first off mean to you?
When I think of leadership, I think of self-leadership. You have to lead yourself first. And you have to remember that people are looking to you for guidance, and that is a gift, quite frankly. So you need to take that seriously and make sure that you are investing in yourself so you can be the best leader you can be for yourself, your family, and for others in your teams and organizations that you're a part of. Because if you focus on that, trying to do your very best, and that's, when I say try, Yoda starts yelling at me, but you do your best. And it's so critically important to do that. And, leadership is one of those things where you learn it. And yes, you can borrow, from others, that, and I did, and I have in my career. There's leaders that I've worked with that, I've definitely borrowed some of their items in their playbook, and some others I'm like, I'm never going to do that to anybody. That was not called for. But, it's like anything in life. It's an ongoing process and something that just continues to ebb and flow. And challenges make you better, and don't run away from challenges. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question, but I think leadership is one of those complex words that to everybody means a little bit different, but ultimately is you're responsible to lead your life, the work of others, your organization, and everything in between.
Yeah, I love that you started with self-leadership too. We talk a lot about that before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I love that. Well, Michael, for our listener who maybe has never heard of you, maybe they have, maybe they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, how you got into what you're doing now, and
Yeah. So launched my organization back in 2016. And the name Breakfast Leadership came to me in the shower. It's funny how the washroom or bathroom gives you so many different ideas. And there's kind of a reason for that, is because usually you're focusing on one thing. You're not multitasking necessarily. You're getting yourself cleaned up, or if you're on the toilet or going to the bathroom, hopefully you're focusing on doing that. Otherwise, you're going to have a mess to deal with. But it's one of those areas where you get some thoughts and clarity comes in. And the title Breakfast Leadership came to mind because I knew I was going to be launching my own business, but I didn't know what I wanted to call it. And I thought, well, Michael Levitt Consulting, one, I've already used that name before. And two, it's like that doesn't raise any eyebrows at all. It pretty is self-explanatory. It's like, okay, some dude named Mike does consulting. All right, well, we figured that out, but we don't know anything else. Where Breakfast Leadership, they go, okay, what does that mean? I've heard all kinds of different explanations from it. It's like, do you run a restaurant? No, I am crazy, but I'm not that crazy. I am not. That's real work. I'm not doing that. No way, not a chance. I will go to restaurants, do a lot, but I'm not going to run one. Absolutely not. I say that now. Now watch me end up running a restaurant sometime in my future, but we'll see. But the organization was birthed out of my own personal journey with burnout that I had back in 2009 and 10 that led to a pretty traumatic year for myself, pretty much a year of worst case scenarios. And after recovering from everything that transpired over a period of a year, and kind of retooling myself, I discovered that this burnout thing was a lot more prevalent than I thought. And this was back, 2010, 2011, all the way up to 2014, when I started noticing it being problematic. Now, of course, we know, burnout is a common phrase these days. A lot of people are experiencing it. The World Health Organization, issued an ICD code about burnout. So, it's definitely on the minds of a lot of people, including, huge global organizations, because it's a huge problem. So I launched the business to address that because I had my own burnout and it was not fun. And I thought, well, the experiences and the lessons that I learned, I could share with others to help them prevent their own burnout, and focusing on leaders, because burnout, unfortunately, does flow down. And if your leaders are burned out, then your teams are going to burn out. And that's bad for organization. It's bad for business, quite frankly. And I don't like seeing, what it can do to people.
That's so good. So tell us a little bit about just so I don't want to give an explanation of why I think you use breakfast. What It is the best meal of the day, that's for sure. Will you tell us a little bit about like what was your thought and the meaning behind that as far as like connecting breakfast with burnout and leadership?
Yeah, for me, my focus was, when I first launched the business, was pretty much C-suite executives and senior leaders in organizations. And I knew, being an executive myself, that if you wanted my attention, you better grab it first thing in the morning. Because once I get into the trenches, you're not going to get an audience. And even if you do, even if you are able to get that meeting, that 2:00 in the afternoon meeting, that executive, their mind is on who knows how many things at that point. They've been dealing with stuff all day, maybe some leftovers from earlier in the week or last week or who knows. And they're there, but their mind may not actually be fully present with you. So I thought, if I'm going to help these leaders kind of take basically inventory of what's going on in their lives to help them reduce their prolonged stress, which turns into burnout, they can be better leaders, which can help them, lead better and lead healthier organizations. So I thought, well, how do you get a hold of them? Well, first thing in the morning. So, the typical, there's the breakfast meetings and things like that, with chambers and other things, but also, one-on-one type of things like, well, let's get you first thing in the day. And we've seen studies about starting off your day the right way will set the tone of how your day goes. And there's countless examples. You can read Brian Tracy's books, or, listen to old Jim Rohn tapes, or, there's all kinds of resources out there that highlight the importance of starting off the right way every day. Basically, you're setting yourself up for success. And for me, it's like, well, let's get a hold of these people first thing in the morning. So, that kind of tied in. And again, I'm with you on the breakfast thing. It is my favorite meal. I do love that. And when I was thinking of what am I going to call this company, it's like, well, I like breakfast. It's about leadership. So let's marry those two together. And before I did anything else, like, well, let's first and see if the domain is available. It was. So I'm like, I gobbled that up really quick. And then ironically, this was, I think I gotta look at the certificate. I gotta see where I put that. I usually have it on the wall, but I did some redecorating in this room. But anyway, I got a birthday gift from the US government a few years ago. I actually was able to get breakfast leadership trademarked. So I got, on my birthday, letter from the government. Usually they want money to renew your passport or other things, but it was a letter from the US Patent Office saying breakfast leadership is a registered trademark. And I'm like, that's cool. So it started off with an idea in the shower to, something that's trademarked, and we're approaching 10 years into this, and just having a blast. I say that I wish that burnout would go away. I would find something else to do. I'm not worried about that, but unfortunately it's not, and it just seems to be getting worse. And then couple that with all the workplace culture challenges, retention, engagement and work. There's just a myriad of things going on right now with people, both from a leadership to the front lines and everywhere in between, that is making this thing we call work a lot more challenging than it needs to be.
Yeah, that's so true. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about your burnout and maybe how you have experienced and or helped people with personal burnout? And then yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about this, how it trickles down and how it really is impacting our workplace, because it's so true.
Yeah, so I'll concise my story a bit. It's what I like to refer to as my 369 days of worst case scenarios. It's actually a book about it if you want to read it and get the gory details of all of it. But back in 2007, I was hired as a healthcare executive just outside of Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I'm originally from Detroit. I'm a dual citizen, so I like to joke that I can vote and screw up 2 countries, and I just leave it there. I don't tell people who I vote for, because if it is truly 50-50, both in Canada and the United States, then you're going to alienate half of your audience, and I don't want to do that. They're all bozos. That's pretty much what I say to, it's like, they're all bozos. Doesn't matter what side of the fence they are. But so here I am. I'm in this brand new healthcare organization that's, basically I have to recruit physicians, hire clinicians, handle, supply orders, handle a last minute site relocation for our clinic, all these things. And I had startup experience, earlier in my career working for startups. And that was the big reason why they hired me. But I had zero healthcare experience. I didn't know anything about healthcare other than being a user of the system occasionally. And so it was a huge learning curve. So for 2 years, I was in entrepreneur mode, even though I was an employee. That was my biggest mistake, is I took ownership of something that really wasn't mine to take ownership. And that's the thing with burnout. A lot of times people end up burning out because they overwhelm themselves with doing things that are actually good. Make a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes sense to do that, but we don't have boundaries around when we work and when we don't. And I didn't have any boundaries around when I didn't work. So for 2 years, I was pretty much pulling the 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. shift 7 days a week, solid, for 2 years. And again, I was an employee. I didn't have any stock options or wasn't an owner of the clinic or anything like that. I was just an employee. And it, all came to a crashing halt. So in May of 2009, so over a period of years, so May 2009 to May 2010, the following things happened to me. I had a heart attack at age 40 that my cardiologist, that puts stents in my left anterior descending artery, which is known as the widowmaker, came into the room before he did the procedure, and he didn't introduce himself first. He just looked at the chart, looked down at me, and leans in and goes, you should be dead right now. And my first wife and my mom were on the other side of the bed. They start crying. I look at him and I go, I see you skipped bedside manner class in medical school. He laughed, I laughed, they're crying. And then he introduced himself, and then he explained the procedure, and he put the stents in the artery, and away we went. So I had 17 weeks to recover from this. And when and a lot of entrepreneurs and leaders, they're always on the go, 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 never stop. Imagine you're going at that pace, and all of a sudden for the next 3 to 4 months, you're not able to do much of anything. You can't drive. You can barely stay awake, 2 o'clock sharp for like the first 6 weeks. And my body goes, yeah, I need to take a nap. And the only time I ever took naps was in the fall during college football season. I'd fall asleep about the third quarter of the 12 o'clock games and then wake up at like 3:45 and UCLA or USC's playing. And I'm like, well, who won the Michigan game? Or, and so you had to wait and see what time, before obviously you can go online and see the scores. But it was like, where am I? So I never really took naps, but every day for weeks, I literally at 2 o'clock, I had basically about a minute warning. I'm like, I got to go lay down. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 40 years old. I don't want to be this way. I mean, I love naps, but I don't want to be that way. So worked with my healthcare providers and they changed a couple medications and got that corrected. But, during those 17 weeks, I did a lot of reflection going, okay, how in the world did this happen? And then after I recovered from all of that, I went back to work to find out that they didn't want me anymore. So they let me go. So 17 weeks after having a cardiac event, now I'm unemployed. And Windsor, for those of you that aren't aware where the location is, it's across the border from Detroit, Michigan. 2009. Anybody remember the Great Recession? Do you remember that General Motors and Chrysler filed bankruptcy both in the United States and Canada, and the governments had to bail them out in order for them to survive? While the rest of the country was in a recession, those areas were, quite frankly, from a statistical standpoint, in a depression. So needless to say, not a lot of jobs to be found. So here I am, fresh off a heart attack and now unemployed and have a mortgage, car payment, 3 kids, all that, and including all the heart medication now that I don't have any insurance coverage for. And those drugs cost me $1,000 a month out of pocket. So when you have bills like that, and anybody that's ever been on unemployment, that the insurance that you get is roughly 50 to 55% of what you were getting before. So anybody take a 50% pay cut and let me know if you're still able to make your ends meet. If you can, you're living right, because that's cool. You have that much buffer, but the majority of people unfortunately do not. So here I am doing all of that. It took me months to find a new role. Ended up requiring a relocation about 4 hours away from where we were. Finally get the job, and this was in the spring of 2010. Start my new job. I'm about 2 weeks in, and then a little after 4 o'clock, I get a phone call from my oldest daughter, who was 10 at the time. And she calls me on the phone and tells me that the bank has come and they've taken the family vehicle. So I had my car repossessed. When you don't make car payments because you don't have any money to make your payments, eventually the bank's going to say, you know what, we want that asset back. So they took it. And I'm not mad at that bank. I've banked with them for years. I still do. I'm not mad at them. I didn't live up to the agreement. So here I am, I'm away. Thankfully, I had a vehicle up there, but, family didn't have a vehicle. So that was a little problematic. But we knew we were moving the family up to the area that I was moving to. And we finally found the place to rent. So we moved everything up, started unpacking, realized that we left the bunk bed ladder back at the old house that we were getting ready to list for sale. So I was going back the following weekend to close out some accounts, and I said, well, I'll swing by the house, grab that and anything else we may have forgotten, just kind of, because when you're in the moving and packing everything up, there's always something. And it was behind a door for some reason. I don't even know why we took the thing down, because the kids were sleeping in that bed all the time. I have no idea who took the ladder and put it behind a door, but must have been a family member or somebody that was trying to help. But ultimately, so I go back to the house to get the ladder and open up the screen door, and I see a padlock that you cannot buy at Home Depot, and a sticker on the door that said foreclosure. We had not received any notifications that the bank was about to do that. We had worked with our creditors and let them know what was going on. And now that I had a new job, we were going to slowly start digging out, and then of course sell the house, and then from there, kind of get back on our feet. But the bank, ran out of patience and time, and I don't blame them either. If you remember the Great Recession, a lot of people were losing their homes and getting things repossessed. So all those things happened in a year's time: the heart attack, job loss, car repo, and home foreclosure. And all those things happened to me because I was burned out. I was working all those hours that I had mentioned. I wasn't getting any physical activity in at all. My nutrition pretty much consisted of ordering through a microphone, driving around the corner, paying them, and getting handed a brown bag. I bet you can guess what kind of food I was eating all the time. And it took a toll, and it nearly cost me my life. And of course, subsequently, car, home, job, all those things. And I think back at that time, and it's been, obviously over 15 years now. And it was the ultimate wake up call for me. And I had a choice. I could either A, take stock and lead myself better, or I could say, hey, wow, I must be like Superman. I survived all that and I'm still standing. Okay, I can take on anything now and not change a thing. Well, I made the choice of, making some adjustments in my life, and better for it. I'm healthier. I feel better. Was successful in my career afterwards, and obviously launched my business and all the things that I get to do. All those things happen because I made the choice, to lead myself.
Wow. That's awesome. It's a lot. Glad you made it. Glad the Widowmaker didn't get you.
Me too.
So tell us a little bit about, like, in that moment, because I think a lot of times when like people can relate to definitely parts of your story and like to that feeling of burnout. Sometimes I've heard a lot of people ask, like, what though, like, how do I actually like get over the hump, or like really make that choice, which you pointed out, which it is a choice. Sometimes I think people don't understand it's a choice. It feels
Mhm.
very much like all this stuff is happening to me and I don't have a choice.
Right.
What is that like, and how can people really like internalize that to then take the power back and make that choice?
Yeah, a phrase that I say a lot, especially at keynote talks and occasionally on my show, is I say burnout is a choice. Now, a lot of people, all of a sudden, they go, I didn't choose burnout. Well, of course not. You didn't say, you know what, for 2026, my goal is, or my word of 2026 is burnout. If you choose that, please seek help. That's not what you want to do. I'm telling you, don't. And you just heard what happened to me. I mean, it's like I don't want any of those things to happen, much less all of them. That was not fun. Okay, I'm not trying to shirk anything. Not a lot of fun, but came out of it. So if you're going through burnout, you can get out of it. What does it take? Well, the first step is everybody tries to do all kinds of different things to change things. And it's like, well, I used to work in IT. If you make a bunch of changes to your system and something breaks, if you make a bunch of changes at the same time, you don't know what broke it. So you have to be very careful on what you do. It's like, okay, let's try this. Okay, how does it react? Okay, all right, we can do this. Because if you try to throw a bunch of changes and it doesn't work anymore, you're like, well, what broke it? We don't know. So you don't want to do that. So if you feel that you are under prolonged stress, which is what turns into burnout, if you're fatigued, lack of motivation, you stop doing things in life you enjoy doing, you're argumentative with your spouse or coworkers or everybody, you don't like anything anymore. That should be a red flag going, yeah, maybe there might be something going on. And sometimes it's seasonal. If you work in an industry that has busy seasons, like, summertime, depending on what part of the country you're in, landscaping season, yeah, you're going to be working a lot of hours. Or if you're in winter stuff, yeah, you might be working a lot. Or my first career was accounting, tax season. Yeah. It's a surefire way to make winter go by quick is because you're always in the office. That makes sense. You're going to be working those hours. You basically prepare yourself for success, just like an athlete does. They know they have a big game tomorrow. What do they got to do today in order for them to be successful tomorrow? And most of the pro athletes do a really good job at that. And like some of them, maybe not so much. And we see them on TMZ and other places when they screw up. But ultimately, when you think you're feeling this way, or I'm fatigued, I think I might be burned out. The key things is you have to pause. And a lot of people say, well, I'll take a 2-week vacation. I'll come back and I'll be refreshed. Okay, you took a break, which is good. But did you do any work on you that set things up for you to burn out in the first place? Taking a break that doesn't address it. I mean, yeah, you feel better, but guess what? if you don't make any changes in how you ended up being burned out, the chances are you'll likely start approaching that again. So you have to take stock of what's going on. You have to look at different things. I tell people, okay, one, how you spending your time? And a lot of people, well, I go to work at this time and I do this. And a lot of people do not like doing this exercise. So they don't like journaling either. And I get it. It's like, I don't have time to journal. Okay. I don't have time to keep track of time. All right. But you're spending all this time, but you don't know what you're spending it on. So keep track of it for a week. I know it's going to be tedious and hard, but at least it'll give you some insights where you can go, wow, I didn't realize I was spending that many hours doing this or this. So understanding how you're spending your time and what you're doing during the time is a really good exercise, because what happens is, and we discovered this during the pandemic with a lot of people, where our energy levels throughout the day are different. Sometimes it might be a spike because you had energy drinks or coffee or something like that, or maybe you're just naturally more energetic certain parts of the day. During the pandemic, we discovered a lot of parents realized that they're really super productive on work-related matters, like from 7 to 9 p.m. And they were a 9 to 5 type of person before, but because they were home and their kids were also at home and they were educating them and doing all the fun stuff, a lot of people were working longer hours, and they discovered, wow, I'm really crushing it from 7 to 9 p.m. So you got to figure out where your energy levels are and try to shift your tasks and the things that you need to do to match with those times. And if you don't know how you spend your time, you're not going to be able to do this exercise easily. So you have to see how you spend your time, and then you have to also track your energy throughout the day. And again, that can be a 5-second exercise. It doesn't have to be, okay, let's type out this 40-page document on how I'm feeling. You can use apps if you want, or a Post-it note. I don't care. Whatever system works for you to help you get a better understanding of your energy levels through the day and what you're working on. Because if you can start moving some things around to when you're energetic, when you need to be for work-related things, then the energy is there for you to do the work. In all likelihood, you're going to get that work done sooner than if you're dragging and you're like, okay, like for example, if somebody asked me right now at the time of this recording, okay, we want you to do some analysis, look at some Excel spreadsheets and things like that. The numbers on that spreadsheet are going to be dancing all around. I'm like, this is not a good time for me to do it. Early in the morning, not a problem. I can analyze it and, study things and determine what needs to be done. Not a problem. Ironically, later in the evening, that energy returns for a window of time. It's weird that it does that for me, but everybody's different. But when you're leading yourself, and I find this time and time again with people that are stressed and burned out, I ask them, well, how do you feel? How do you lead yourself? And they kind of look at me like, what do you mean? And it's like, that's all I needed to hear. You're not. You're going through life on autopilot, and you've delegated your life to others, whether it's your employer, your spouse, your kids, your dog. I have a 5-month-old puppy. He's running the show right now. Although not right now. He's in another room in a crate, hopefully sleeping. I don't hear him barking, so we're good. But it's one of those things where you have to take care of yourself first, because if you don't lead yourself, how are you going to lead others?
So good.
Great stuff, Michael. I've got a question. I'm curious how much, and part of this comes from a book I read this, I'm trying to think, probably a year or two ago by, I'm going to probably butcher his last name, Ali Abdal, I think. He's a YouTuber.
Okay.
Wrote a book called Feel Good Productivity.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about that sometimes burnout comes from misalignment. How much do you see as like it being the time or the amount or the totality of things versus, hey, I'm just doing things that aren't good or a good fit for me in my life or what I enjoy?
Yeah, I see a lot of that. And it didn't start off that way. We see that a lot with YouTube influencers and social media influencers. There's been countless really successful people that say, I need to take a break because I'm burned out. And they loved doing it it made a lot of sense. It was a great idea, but then they didn't have the boundaries around when they did things and when they didn't. They had maybe some rapid success, and we've seen that where they get millions and millions of views, they're making a ton of money, and they're absolutely miserable. And and a lot of people are like, well, I wish I could be that. No, don't wish that upon yourself. It's not fun. And can imagine that. You have to figure out, okay, what's my definition of success as an individual for me? What does that look like? What does that taste like? What is my ideal day? What is my ideal week, month, year? And again, going back to what I said before, when I ask people how they lead themselves, I can ask them that question. They don't know. And they may never have known. They may have never done that exercise, or maybe they did once, and then life and circumstances and all these things that come into our lives just pile up. Life is not easy. We know that. There's always going to be stress. It's how we navigate around it or through it is the key. And sometimes it just comes down to mindset, because I go into organizations all the time and I'll see a couple people that are doing basically the same job. Demographics are roughly the same, so it's pretty much you're comparing like split testing or A/B testing kind of thing. And A is living their ideal life, things going great, no problem, workloads, they're crushing it, doing that. B is burned out like beyond belief, same workloads, same situations, but there's something going on, and it's like it could be personal, it could be something going on in their lives, it could be something they just decide, I don't want to do this anymore, and or they had a negative interaction, or a lot of times I see too. And it's a phrase that I've used before, and worked with Dr. Arlene Battisil years ago. We wrote a book on this as well, and did some consulting for a little bit. And we talked about stand-ins. So what happens is, let's say you had a bad boss or a bad relationship earlier in your career. Now all of a sudden you're in your career, and all of a sudden there's a new boss, and they are behaving in a similar fashion to that negative experience. Well, that's a stand-in, because in your brain, you're like, that's happening again. And all of a sudden you have that mindset, the trauma that you may have not addressed. And all of a sudden you start going down this path of, I hate this job, it's the worst place ever. It's too much work. I need to make more money. All these things that we hear all the time. And it's not the reality. You are just basically saying that this new boss is a carbon copy of the old one, and they might be, but many times it's not. There's just communication issues. And we start in our brains, unfortunately, have this or fortunately, I should say, the amygdala is there to protect us, but it doesn't do the best job from time to time. And it can get us into some really bad thought patterns and beliefs. And again, these are based on past experiences or the things we tell ourselves. The negative self-talk in some people is just absolutely alarming and atrocious. It's like, why do you talk so bad about yourself? You've done so much. And we see it in leaders all the time. I see it, C-suite executives that are, top of the game, leading humongous organizations. And you peel back the layers a little bit, and sometimes you'll find that scared little child. And they're trying to cover that up, but it's there. And you're like, and you think like, look how successful you are. But when you're overwhelmed with fear and anxiety or depression or other things, it can drown out all of the past successes, and just put you in this horrible state, which unfortunately too many people find themselves in.
So let's talk a little bit about, I love the question, Drew, about alignment, and that's some great insight. Let's talk a little bit about, and I'm really biased towards this word and this concept of like alignment on teams. And I'm curious your take from your experience on, we just talked about how misalignment personally can cause burnout and different things like that. And what have you seen in teams? And then how do we help people understand either like I'm somewhere where I'm not aligned, or I'm going to get a job somewhere and I want to be aligned, or as a leader of a team, we don't really have a lot of alignment. So it's contributing to this burnout factor or this like lack of engagement factor. Curious your thoughts on that, Michael.
A lot of it is just there's a lack of understanding across the board from the leadership with its teams, the team with its leadership, the team within their counterparts and their colleagues. There's these perceptions and thoughts. Well, this is what they think, and they haven't really communicated any of this. They haven't sat down and kind of scaled back the issues. I'll give a real life example. It was a medical clinic that I took over. This is over a decade ago. Toxic cesspool was a good descriptor for this place because they had gigantic turnover year after year. I mean, it was approaching 9 out of 10 people annually were leaving. And these are master's level educated and above clinicians that were like punching out and going, I'm out of here. It wasn't, a fast food restaurant with teenagers that, decide, I want to go do something else. And this was, people that, vested in their career and they're like, I got to get out of here. So, the opportunity came about for this opening for this role. And I went, that sounds like fun. Let's go in. And everybody thought it was nuts. They're correct. I am crazy. But I thought, you know what? Let's see if we can turn this around. And after a year, the turnover was reduced to 6%. And what did I do? I didn't give a single dollar raise to anyone. I didn't give them any extra benefits. I didn't buy a brand new state-of-the-art coffee machine or ping pong table or any of the fun stuff. Didn't overwhelm them with pizza parties. Don't get me started on that. I didn't do any of that. I came in and I met with every individual. And then we had some meetings collectively, but every individual, I said, okay, if you were in my seat, what would you do? What would you change to make this place better? And I listened. And there was a lot of commonality amongst it. Now, as a team, they hadn't talked with each other, and there was some infighting within the team and all of that. So that was the second phase of things. But I got all that, and then convened everybody, and I said, okay, here's how things are going to go with me. We've hired you to do the role that you're doing. It's my responsibility to make sure that you have everything that you want and need in order for you to be successful and reach the dreams and goals that you have in this role. You invested a lot of your time and effort and money and education to do this job. I want you to be successful. I want you to be so successful that you get a job offer that makes more money than here and you leave. I'm not telling you to leave, but I want you to grow here. I want you to be able to do that. Now, you don't have to leave. I'm not telling anybody to leave. We've had enough people leave, but I want you to grow. I want you to get everything you can out of this place. And you're going to help me understand what that is for you. And because each of you, it could be different. And we did that. And then thankfully there was some low-lying fruit. People had suggested some things, implemented immediately. I had, the budget and flexibility to do so and approval from the board. And so I did that and started breaking down the barriers. The communication with the doctors and the clinicians dramatically improved, started partnering them up on different things so they got to understand each other. And then all of a sudden things started to improve, got to the point where we were able to expand. We were seeing more patients. We were in an underserviced area. So we were dealing with a lot of people that it was a primary care clinic that previously didn't have access to good primary care. Well, now they did. And we were able to expand, open up multiple locations, recruit new physicians. So we went from this turnstile of people wanting to leave to me getting bombarded with resumes because people wanted to work there. And all I did was I asked people, what do they need from me in order for them to be successful and meet their dreams and accomplishments in this role? And they told me, and I delivered. A lot of it, there were some things that people asked about, I can't do that, but maybe we could do this. But they got what they were looking for. And the biggest thing was I earned their trust, that I trusted them to do their role. I didn't micromanage them, because micromanagement is insecurity by management. I'll call every manager out on that. If you're a micromanager, you are insecure. And I'll give you countless examples why. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I understand it, but I'm just telling you what it is. And sometimes people don't like that abruptness, but I will tell them, you're insecure. Now, I don't do it in front of everybody else. It's a private conversation because you don't want to embarrass anybody. But at the end of the day, you do that, and all of a sudden, things start to flow a little bit easier. People start enjoying to work with each other. They start pairing up. They came up with ideas. There was two people that literally hated each other's guts. They co-led a project that impacted like 15,000 people in our community. There was no way that was going to happen before I got there. And they did it, and they were celebrated, and everybody acknowledged, and the community was absolutely thrilled with what they did. It's like we broke down the barriers. And every organization, unfortunately, has silos and barriers, but ultimately you can correct it. And a lot of it is just earn their trust, ask them what they want, deliver, create an environment where people can thrive. It's easy to do, but unfortunately, it's also easy not to.
Totally. Yeah. Like the whole time we're talking, I'm like, yeah, this is a big complex issue, or feels that way. And I really believe, like you're saying, that the solution or the approach to mitigate it is not complicated.
No.
It's not easy.
No.
It is simple though. It's pretty simple.
And if I had to summarize what I heard you say, Michael, it was you communicated with everybody, and you helped them see how life at their job or work could get them the dreams or get them where they wanted to go.
Yeah.
Whether that meant there forever or going somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I just think if you're listening, that there's just such great lessons in that. Like sometimes you talk to a leader that's, well, I don't want to talk about what they want, because what if they want to leave? Well, it's like, wouldn't that be good to know and have a conversation of how this could set them up for that and make their time here the best?
Yeah.
No, I love that.
Yeah, there was a registered nurse that I hired for, it was a programming type of role. So she wouldn't be seeing patients in a clinical kind of things or giving them shots or immunizations. Although during flu season, all hands on deck, I'm surprised they didn't ask me to give the immunizations. Of like, no, we're not doing that. The only reason I passed science class in 9th grade was Mr. Burrell did not want to see me again next year. So he gave me the C. My parents were like, why did you get a C? And I'm like, we're not arguing and we're not talking about this, okay? I got A's and B's everywhere else. The C was there. Why did that? It's like, I'm not talking about it. Be happy I got the C, because there was no way that was a C. But I took it and I ran with it. And statute of limitations, baby. So I don't have to worry about it. I wonder if Mr. Burrell's still alive. I'll have to look it up and see if he is. But anyway, and I'll send him a very belated, almost 40 years thank you note. Yeah, thanks, bud. I really appreciate it. But anyway, this nurse, I knew she had career aspirations to go work in the hospital sector and do some different things and programming on that. So that's why it's like, well, let's work with, and I had counterparts and colleagues in the hospital sector. And I said, okay, I've got this all-star. That's how I identified her. She was an all-star. I said, she's an all-star. You can't have her yet, but because I don't think she's ready for it yet. But what does she need to do? What are some things we can do at this level that can help her gain the experience? So, some mentors of mine and colleagues said, well, have her do this and this and this. So we designed programs around that. Sure enough, about 2 years into it, she saw an opportunity. She came to me and said, I feel bad about this. I'm like, okay, did you kill somebody? No? Okay, good. All right, what? It's like, don't kill anybody. That's the only thing I asked any of my clinicians. Please don't kill anybody. I don't want to be on the news. That's not fun. But I said, okay, well, what's going on? And she said, I saw an opportunity at this hospital and about this and this. And I knew, some people at that hospital. I said, you should apply. But I love it here. I know you love it here. But you told me 2 years ago that was your dream. Is that still your dream? Yeah. Go get your dream. And then I called the counterparts. I'm like, okay, you're going to interview this person. You're going to be blown away by her. She might be nervous. This is her dream job. She's going to crush it for you. And she got the job. The doctors in the clinic were so mad at me. How could you let her go? Because she's awesome and she's helping the healthcare system. Isn't that what we're supposed to do? A lot of people look, within. I tend to look more global. How do we help humanity? and she's crushing it. Yeah, I haven't talked with her in years, but I know she's absolutely crushing it. She's probably even got promoted since that role. But again, I create an environment, and every leader should do this. Create an environment where people can thrive and grow. Guess what? You're going to have an all-star or a team full of all-stars that are crushing at your company, and you're going to be able to do some amazing things. That's going to be good for you too.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Help your people get what they want,
Mhm.
like understand what their vision, their dream is. It's so easy to get scarce and be like, oh, I can't lose people. It's hard to find people. I won't be able to replace them. And yeah, like if you're hearing this story from an example from Michael, it's so true. You help people get what they want and assure them that you'll help them with that. And guess what? A lot of times they actually don't end up leaving. Sometimes they do, and it's great, and you're happy for them. And a lot of times they actually end up staying because they're like, okay, you're building a vision big enough for me. Like I'm just going to stay here. Like, why would I leave? So yeah, that's really, really good. Well, thanks for sharing that, Michael. This has been so great. Appreciate all of the, the stories you've shared and the insight. Really incredible. What's the best way for people to get connected with you or follow along with you and your business?
Yeah, best place to go is breakfastleadership.com. The links to all my stuff is on that site. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. Got a podcast, The Breakfast Leadership Show. Books, of course, are available on Amazon, but there should be links on the breakfastleadership.com website. There's a contact option there, but you can connect with me on LinkedIn or social media. Send me a message, and ask anything you want to ask. I'll be able to guide you one way or the other. If I can't do it, I know enough people that can, because I want leaders of all walks of life to be successful. I want them to reach their dreams. They again, people invest a lot of time and effort to be in the roles that they're in. And they want to be successful. They want to do the things in life they want to do. And I want that for them. And there's more than enough to go around for everybody. But sometimes you just have to take charge and take control of your own life and create the opportunities. Is it going to be a straight line? Nope. No, you don't want a straight line, especially if you're a cardiac patient. The straight line is not good. You want the boom, 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 boom. You want that to be pretty consistent. Yeah, I know in life that can be a little roller coastery, but you don't want that flat line because, needless to say, then you'll be viewed instead of seen, and I don't wish that upon anybody. So, again, breakfastleadership.com.
Awesome. Well, love what you're about. Love what you're doing out in the world. It's very needed, and it's great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Last question we like to ask our guests, Michael, and I think you've kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it still. How does Michael want to be remembered as a leader?
I got a note from the last place that I ran before I launched, my business and went on my own, and it was a piece of paper that was, I think, on the bottom of a brand new coffee mug. Sometimes they put some like foil paper or something like that. So it's this round piece of paper. And the employee wrote down, "You're the best boss ever." And I still have that note. And it's one of those, okay, how do I be the best boss ever? What does that look like? Now, to each person, that could be different. And it is, some people are like, "You're the best boss because you leave me alone. You don't bother me. You let me do my job. I come in, I go home, and everything's good." Others are like, "You're there to mentor me, encouraging me. You're doing all these things." And some boss is like, "You're correcting me, and I'm making a lot of mistakes, but you're patient and you're helping me grow and all that." You kind of meet people where they are. And so, I see that and I'm like, okay, that was a gift to me and a reminder. It's like, okay, if that's what I want to be, either the best boss of my own life or a boss for somebody else, what does that look like for them? How can I attain and retain that level? So I encourage leaders to do the same thing. Strive to be your absolute best. Even if you don't hit A, maybe Mr. Burrell will still give you a C and you'll pass.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's great. I just pictured the Michael Scott World's Best Boss mug as you were.
Yeah. No, they didn't give me that because I would have been like, I'm like, all right, what do you want? That's kissing up a little bit much. No, I do not. As you can tell, I'm drinking tea, and it is a clear glass one. No slogans on my stuff, because, that's when your head can get a little bit too big, and we all know Michael Scott's head was a bit inflated, to say the least.
No, awesome to be remembered as someone who's making a difference, making an impact. So.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. This has been great.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. To our listener, today's the day.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.